You know nothing, Jim Boylen. What's up, real MVPs? What's up, Bulls fans? Ricky Widmer here from Most Valuable Podcast, obviously back for another Bulls reaction. Want to apologize. Schedule's a little bit off. I know a couple of you on the What's Your Fantasy video are like, are you coming out with a Bulls reaction? Are you coming out with a Bulls reaction? Patience, young Padawans. They are coming. Some days it was Wednesday, recorded What's Your Fantasy. Took a little me time. Brandon and I played a little Madden, kind of get away from things. Wasn't able to watch the game until late Thursday. I am doing this actually at 11:45 in the evening on Thursday. You're seeing this in the morning on Friday. Tonight we play the Pistons, and D Rose is coming to town. I'll get into that at the end of the video, but I wanted to do something a little bit different for this one because I feel like every single game, there were some people on my Knicks video that were kind of, it seemed like a little upset that I was so negative about the team. And it's like, I usually try to look at the good and the bad, the yin and the yang, because no one's perfect. There's always good to stuff. There's always bad to stuff. And of course, when you're the Bulls, when you've only won one of your first, what's our record now? 1-4 now. I lose track with all these L's that we are getting. I have not been able to do a the Bulls or da Bulls. That's a fake one. I shouldn't have been able to do that because we didn't win. I haven't been able to do a good one since the Grizzly game because we've only won one game this year. So, of course, when you're losing, it's easy to harp on the negative. So, for this one, I wanted to kind of look at a certain topic that has kind of taken over Bulls Twitter. And then I've got some fan questions and discussions that we can have about on this video. The thing I wanted to look at, it's the title of the video. You know what it is. It's Jim Boylen. And the reason why is Bulls Twitter, the pitchforks are out, people. The pitchforks are out. Everybody wants to fire Jim Boylen again. There's fire Jim Boylen, fire John Paxson, fire Gar Forman, Gar Pax, Jim Boylen. They're all on the hot seat right now on Bulls Twitter. And I wanted to look at Jim Boylen to see, is this even right? I know on Superfans this week, we're going to go into a deep discussion about, will the Bulls fire Jim Boylen? Should they fire Jim Boylen? I just want to give some quick thoughts about it, kind of be a precursor to that conversation that we're going to have on Superfans. We're going to record that on Saturday, so go ahead and look for that to be posted on Sunday so you guys can hear Sean and Dave also give their thoughts about the situation as well along with me. But looking at just this game, I know the big thing that people are harping on are the three-guard lineup. Coby White, Chris Dunn, Ryan Arcidiacono. I also saw a joke tweet where someone's like, the perfect lineup for Jim Boylen. At the 1, Ryan Arcidiacono. At the 2, Ryan Arcidiacono. At the 3, Ryan Arcidiacono. Number 4, Ryan Arcidiacono. Number 5, Ryan Arcidiacono. It's just Ryan Arcidiacono. It's the perfect Jim Boylen player in his mind. And the thing that I look at is, for me, it's not necessarily the three-guard lineup that's the problem. It's like something Dave told me, because obviously Dave watched the game before I did. Before I finished, he said, what I want you to look at is when things start coming off the rails, who is still in the game? And that's exactly, it kind of clicked while I was watching the game of, in the fourth quarter, when the Cavs started to get on a roll and started to take the lead, Coby White, Ryan Arcidiacono, Chris Dunn, that second unit, along with Luke Cornett. Luke Cornett is getting some hate from Bulls fans, it seems, too. They were all still in the game. Zach wasn't out there. Otto wasn't out there. Lowry wasn't out there. Wendell wasn't out there. And that, to me, is my big thing with Jim Boylen. First off, just his decision-making in general, where if you look at this past game, and let's see if I still have the box score up, I do. Look at all of our starters. Lauri Markkanen, 27 minutes. Otto Porter, 27 minutes. Wendell Carter, guess it, 27 minutes. Sadaransky, I didn't even mention him. He wasn't out there either. 27 minutes. Zach LaVine was the only one at 32 out of our starting five. Thad Young, he got more minutes, 23. He got more minutes down the stretch because there was a whole thing they asked him even in post-game of why he left Thad Young out there instead of Lauri Markkanen. I'll get into that in a little bit, but the big thing I kind of feel with Jim Boylen and his decision-making are two things. First off, I look at this and I just think, are we load managing guys? Like, is that it? Are we playing a load management lineup? Because we're not going to be, like most people don't see us as a playoff team. I know myself, I know Dave had the Bulls in the playoffs. Throw Bulls homerism to that. But most people don't have us as a playoff team this year. We're not like the Los Angeles Clippers. We're not going to be like, okay, our big goal is the NBA championship. We got to save Kawhi. We got to save Paul George. We got to save Lou Will. All these guys. Make sure that they're ready for when the games really count. Because, like, I look at the other side, and of course I took down the box score because I wanted to even see just the last game against the Knicks, how this played in. But, like, you look at the Cavaliers in this game. Kevin Love playing 31. Jetty Osman playing 31. TT playing 35. Garland and Sexton, they were the lowest. 28 for Sexton, 25 for Garland. And that's only because, like, Jordan Clarkson off the bench had 26. Larry Nance played 30 minutes in this game. This is a team, it looked like for me, minutes-wise, with the Cavs, they're a team playing like, hey, we're probably not going to make the playoffs. Let our starters play. Let the big guys play. Let's try to win this game. With the load management thing, and I don't even know if it's load management. I'm just using that word because it's the hot ticker word in NBA the last few recent years. There's no reason in my mind to have a minutes limit on Lauri Markkanen, on Zach LaVine, on Sadaransky, on Otto Porter, on Wendell Carter. That's your starting five. Those are the guys that in winning time you're supposed to go to, and it kind of leads into with this game when everything was starting to go off the rails. I feel like Jim Boylen went to that starting five minus Lowry because he kept Thad in because he's like, oh, just like I let Kobe play more minutes against Memphis. He was on a roll. Part of me, I get it and I don't, where I kind of feel like with me, that sits as a, well, does he not trust Lauri Markkanen right now? And I know some people are going to say, no, ride with the hot hand. But I don't know. If I'm trying to win a game, I'd rather have my star player. I'm using air quotes because I know some people are going to say Lauri Markkanen's not a star yet. On our team and what we are, he's one of our stars. He's one of our bright future pieces. Zach, him, Kobe, Wendell. Those are the guys we're trying to build around for the future. I want him out there in winning time. It's kind of like if the 90s Bulls said, you know what, we're going to sit Dennis Rodman because Tony Kukoc has been having a better game. It doesn't make sense to me, kind of a thing. And I know Tony Kukoc might be more of a 3 than a 4, but roll with it in a sense. Where it just doesn't roll with me, where have the big guy out there, and not literally big, but like your big star type player out there in the winning moments, because it seemed like that starting five was starting to come back, starting to make some noise, but they just didn't have enough time. And by the time that Colin Sexton slam happened, that was the dagger, and we couldn't come back from that. Now, on top of that, I'll be honest, there is the compound that Zach LaVine and his decision-making in this game kind of played it like Mike 2K, one of our fans, YouTube, but hit me up on Twitter. He even mentioned it, where Zach kind of goes to the hero ball in the worst situations, and we saw that late in this game, especially after the game was kind of out of reach, but still when we were still in striking distance as well. So, I mean, with me and Jim Boylen, it's his decision-making. And before I get into the discussion topics of questions that I got from fans on Twitter, I have two Jim Boylen things I want to read. And the first one comes from Eric Musselman, who is the head coach of the Arkansas Razorbacks. And he put on Twitter, "We have to develop our players not just on the floor. Last year we went to a museum in DC and we have speakers come in. I talk about soul and spirit and character. We've got to try to help develop that. I think that's part of our job." And it's a quote from Bulls head coach Jim Boylen. And I look at this, and the first thought in my mind, that's something a college coach does. A college coach worries about developing these guys as men. And I know what you can say, like the devil's advocate part is, well, Ricky, we got a young team, like we got to develop character, or the devil's advocate of like, you got to have a good locker room. But I'm going to kind of relate it to the Washington Nationals, who just won the World Series in the MLB. They were talking to Rendon after the game, and they talked about the locker room because they're like, hey, by the All-Star break, you guys had one of the worst records in baseball. How'd you turn it around? And Rendon's like, hey, we just leaned on the veterans. Like, we just kept it as a positive thing. We noticed that, hey, like, Martinez, the manager, can't do it all himself. It's got to be on us to help the young guys and keep the morale up. I feel like Jim Boylen's trying to do too much in that sense. Like, in a college coach, his job to mold these young men, make them men, as well as play well on the basketball court, because if you don't win games, you get fired. But I feel like when you're the head coach of an NBA team, you can kind of step back, let the veterans do that. For us, it would be, our veterans would be, let Otto Porter do that. Let Zach LaVine do that. Let Tomas Satoransky be that guy. Let Thad Young be that guy. And you may be sitting there going, well, Ricky, Thad Young's probably our biggest veteran on this team right now. Like, we're a pretty, like, and I wonder if that's it. Are we too young of a team? Is Zach even too young of a guy to kind of take on that role? Is he not ready to take on that role? And it kind of leans back to like what Will Perdue said, and I mentioned in the Knicks video, like having a guy like Rolo on this team who was one of our big veterans last year. Do we not have enough veteran presence on this team? Is that the problem with the Bulls right now? Because like I said, this quote kind of seems like a college coach. That's what a college coach does. Let the vets in the room kind of mold this team so you can maybe focus more on the X's and O's and don't have to micromanage everything. I feel like Jim Boylen is trying to micromanage everything. Some things you just got to let it go. Let the players do it. You can't control everything. It's like a parent. Once you let that kid go to college, to school, they start getting older, making their own decisions. You got to understand you're not going to be there to control everything at every point. Jim Boylen, I feel like, has to learn that same lesson with the Bulls. And just a second one from Sylvie here in Chicago, ESPN 1000 of Waddle and Sylvie. He threw out the tweet during the game, after the game. Jim Boylen is the Freddie Kitchens of the NBA. Do you disagree with him? Do you? Because I could see it. And the reason why I see it is maybe Jim Boylen's I'll kind of relate it to, yet again, I'm using bull on bull analogy here, but maybe he's the Tex Winter kind of a guy. And I know Tex Winter wasn't exactly what I'm going to relate here. Tex Winter was with the 90s Bulls, helped out with the defense, made sure the defense was really solid for the Bulls running that famous triangle offense. But maybe Jim Boylen's the guy where he's not the head coach. He's better being the assistant coach who can work off the side. And that's a thing of then the head coach can worry about the X's and O's, worry about what we need to do to win the games. Let the assistant coach help out and be like, hey, we're going to work on this chemistry and kind of delegate things. And I feel like that could be also another thing. Maybe Jim Boylen's just not cut it to be a head coach and he's more of an assistant coach. That's fine. Not everyone is cut from the cloth to be a head coach in the NFL, in the NBA, in the MLB. Some people are fine and better off being assistant coaches. So that's what I take that. It's not kind of like a burn. It's just like a no, he's more of an assistant coach rather than a head coach. But let's get into some of these questions, and more of them are kind of comments that I got on Twitter. First one going to be coming from Josh Davis, where he says, "Shake my head. The only thing worse than our offense is our defense. Hashtag Bulls Nation." This one, I kind of feel like our offense isn't terrible, ? I feel like there were moments in this Cavs game where, especially early in the first half, when the ball is moving, and even Stacey King mentioned this, like, the ball moves, we find a shooter. Of course, sometimes the shot's not going to go in. There were times Zach had an open look off ball movement. Lowry had an open look. Otto had an open look. Sometimes the shots aren't going to fall, and you got to determine good shot, bad shot versus the shot just not falling, or if it was a ill-advised shot, a bad shot that the player shouldn't have taken. I don't think our offense has been terrible most of the time. I just feel like the Bulls' biggest problem is that they kind of forget, like, they'll get a lead, like in this one. They got a lead in the first quarter. Knick game, got a lead in the first quarter. And then just forgot what got them the lead. And I know Stacey mentioned this during the broadcast, that young teams almost forget how, like, what got them the lead. Like, oh, this got us the lead, and then they forget about it and go and do something else. Like, ball movement got them the lead. All right, let's switch to hero ball. And that's what I feel like our offense is, where when the ball is moving and like it should, and we're having a good flow to the offense, we score baskets. But when we start to play hero ball, that's when we fall into a little bit of a trouble. Our defense is just atrocious. Like, yet again, Kevin Love, Tristan Thompson, Larry Nance, 3 bigs, had great games against us. K Love had at least 20 boards in this game? I'm going to look it up. I know he had 20 boards late. Yeah, he finished with 17 and 20. TT finished with 23 and 10, and then Larry Nance had 12 and 5. Like, so far, 4s and 5s, more so 4s than 5s, have destroyed us. And like I was talking to Dave, I don't know if it's Wendell. I don't know if it's Lowry. Dave kind of mentioned to me more that it might be Lowry than the Wendell part, but it's got to be concerning that 4s and 5s are just having great games against us, especially scoring-wise. Plus, you're not going to win many games when you're being out-rebounded, 47-32? You're not going to win games if you're being out-rebounded like that. So that's another thing playing into the common theme that I've had. Plus, like I've said, our defense has just not been good all year, and I'm just not expecting it to change. Like, at this point, I'm not expecting it to change. If it changes, I'll be pleasantly surprised, but yet again, like, I mean, we show flashes of good defense, but then we kind of, yet again, forget what is getting us the lead, and our defense has not been the strongest point. But our offense, I think, has been good at times, but it just hasn't been as consistent as we would like it to. Next tweet I'm going to go is Eric Kwan, Statsman, always hitting us up. He said to me on Twitter, "Other than Levine and Kobe White, there are not enough backcourt guys who can get buckets. Hashtag Bulls Nation." And this kind of goes into the offense bucket as well, no pun intended. But with this one, I don't think we need a lot of guys that can create their, like, we don't need all the guards that can create their own shots. Having Levine and Kobe be the only creators on this team, I think, is fine. Like, because you need guys who can shoot. You need guys who can come off of screens, get a pass, make a bucket, who can maybe, like, we've seen it from, I know people have been bashing him on Twitter because it seems like Boylen loves to go to him, but I can't remember if it was in this game. I think it was in this game where Luke Cornett had a nice move where he dumped the ball off, he cut to the basket, got the ball, got rewarded. Or another one where he went to fake the pass, fake the handoff, went to the basket. This one might have been in the Knick game. Got to the basket, got rewarded. We've seen Wendell do the same thing. Dump it off, come around, cut to the basket, get rewarded. And I think that's where the Bulls offense is failing, where we don't need guys like Levine and Kobe to create shots. That's just going to muddle up the offense. That's going to get us too hero bally. We need guys that are constantly moving. Let's bookmark that. I'm going to talk about that a little later, where we need guys who can maybe come off a screen, like big guys, cut to the basket, get rewarded kind of a situation, and not be stagnant, not just kind of stand there. Like, there was a situation where Chris Dunn had the ball, and for example, like Zach LaVine ran to the corner and just stood there. That's not going to be good offense. That's not good flow. And yet again, that falls to me back on the coach. It's the coach's job to make sure that doesn't happen. So, I mean, that's what me and kind of like the offense in general, where I don't think it's bad we don't have anybody like Kobe and Zach who can kind of create their own shot. We just need to have a better flow overall on offense. And that leads me into, I said bookmark that one note. I'm going to read this. This was a comment on our my Knicks reaction that I had. It comes from Chester, and Chester says, possible discussion question for you, Ricky, and the team. That means us. If Lauri Markkanen is going to be an outside player, why is he not modeling his game on Steph Curry and continually moving through screens, backdoors, etc., and not just stand in one spot on each possession? By standing in one spot, he makes it easier for defenses to contain him. I'm getting a little worried that Markkanen may not be conditioned well enough to be considered an offensive contributor. And with me in this one, it's kind of like what I said before, and it falls into this. I think the entire offense falls into this at times, where you just go, you stand there. And I mean, part of me wants to give Zach, I know I mentioned it with Zach, so I'll use him, kind of the benefit of the doubt, because he played. Part of me wants to give benefit of the doubt because he played 32 minutes, but then there's a part of me that goes, you're an NBA player, you should be conditioned enough to play 32 minutes. But let's be honest, I would make it 32 minutes out there. So, I mean, I'm not going to bash Zach for it. Zach looked gassed at the end of this game. They showed a close-up of him at the very end of the game, like as it was out of reach. Dude was breathing heavy. I felt for him, where it's like you could tell Zach was putting it out there. He was playing a lot of minutes. So, I mean, part of me there is like, hey, Zach, you did all you could do out there. But for the most part, this offense, you got to get more movement on this offense, because Chester's exactly right, especially with Lauri. If you're just going to stand out there, be a sitting duck, defenses are just going to contain you. You got to come off of screens. With Lauri, I wouldn't even mind with him, where it's like, it doesn't even have to be a screen or a three. Come off a screen, cut to the basket sometimes. It doesn't have to be outside. Cut to the basket, get a pass, get rewarded at the rim. I feel like the Bulls in general, just movement needs to be the mantra when they hit the practice floor coming up into games. And the thing with the last part where Chester says well-conditioned enough to be an offensive contributor, at the end of this game, while looking at the minutes that I said, I almost think to myself, does Jim Boylen not have this team conditioned well enough at the beginning of the year? Because I know we talked about last year, a big thing was the back-to-back practices and the players not liking it, and they changed it, and this year was going to be a little different. Has that affected the conditioning of this team, where coming into this year, we're not a conditioned team, and we just got to wait for the season to kind of go before this team kind of gets its conditioning under them? I don't know. I'm not with the team at practice. Like, I'm not there every day, but that's going to be something that I'm going to keep my eye on this season. Is the conditioning going to get better over time? And is this just a beginning of the year thing because we're not running Jim Boylen two-a-days like we used to last year? Like, that's just something that I'm going to be looking at going forward. And then kind of the last two go hand in hand. Like I mentioned, Mike 2K hit me up on Twitter. This one kind of has a little bit of explaining to do, the tweet he sent. And I'm sorry I can't play the GIF for you guys because I took a screenshot, but here it is. Bulls season officially over. Blow it up. And this goes with a little bit of explaining. Mike 2K before the game had tweeted at me that if we lose to the Cavs, blow it up. Wendell Kobe's the only one he's keeping. Trade everybody else. This was immediately after the game. He had tweeted me that. I want to kind of segue that into this next tweet, though, and I'm going to put it up. Bulls Scripted said, Bulls next 6 games. Detroit, no Blake. We play them tonight. Indy, no Miles Turner. Lakers maybe sit AD with shoulder. Hawks possibly no Trey. Rockets likely loss. Knicks need redemption. Here's my thought on this. First off, is the season over? No, but I am severely backing off on my playoff prediction. It seems like 2 predictions from the preseason I'm going to be wrong on. Bulls are probably not going to make the playoffs. Warriors are not going to win the whole NBA Finals. Those are 2 predictions that I'm kind of going, oh, they're not sitting right now. But when it comes to the Bulls' next 6 games, Detroit's going to be interesting. Only because, I know Blake's not playing, but Derrick Rose has been on a tear. Derrick Rose is coming home. Derrick Rose is going to have a great game. I'm just preparing for it mentally, so when it happens, I'm not upset about it, and I'm not ready to pull the little hair that I have left out of my head. So that's just my thought there, that don't expect a win against the Pistons. Be surprised if we do, because there's always the possibility, ? But I expect Derrick Rose to have a phenomenal game. Luke Kennard, who's looking good for the Pistons as well. I expect that game to be a loss. Indianapolis, I believe that one's on the road here. Let me pull up the Bulls schedule. That would also be helpful to see if these games are at home or on the road. Looking at this one, I'm going to zoom into that tweet so I can see the exact games and stuff. But so Detroit's at home. Indy's on the road, of course. Yeah, no Miles Turner, but like Dave mentioned to me when we were talking today, Domantas Sabonis had a fucking phenomenal game the other day. With our defense and how fours and bigs usually do against their team, I wouldn't be surprised if Domantas Sabonis saboned us all night that game and had a really big one, and we lost that one, so I'm not really optimistic about that one. The Lakers, even if AD doesn't play, they have a guy called LeBron James. Now, if LeBron and AD don't play, all right, maybe we've got a possibility to win because Kuzma's not out there, Rondo's not out there. But if LeBron's out there, I don't think we're winning that game. Yes, I know it's at home at the UC, but we would need both AD and LeBron to sit out to win that game. So yet again, not optimistic about that one either, unless LeBron and AD are sitting. Then the Hawks, that one's interesting because here, and doing this live on the Bulls Reaction, I know that Dave mentioned that John Collins in their game had a little bit of a tussle. Screw it, my Twitter's not loading. So depending on John Collins and what's going on there, yeah, not having Trey is big. This is probably the first winnable game of these 6, or I'm not going to say winnable because, of course, Detroit, Indy, those are winnable. The Laker one, even with no AD, I think going up against LeBron is going to be tough sledding with the Bulls team that we've seen so far. This is the first one that I'm optimistic towards with the Hawks. Having no Trey, even with John Collins out there, although John Collins being a 4 probably have 25 plus points against us, so you can never trust that. Plus, someone like Cam Reddish might actually show up and play well against us. That just seems how this year goes, but that would be the first game of this that I'm optimistic. Totally agree. Houston is a likely loss. Harden and Westbrook will probably dominate us in that game. That one being home at the UC. And then the Knicks to me is a toss-up. If we go out and play the Knicks at the UC like we did in MSG, chalk it up as a loss. Plus Bobby Portis coming back home. I know Bobby got his revenge against us, but I wouldn't be surprised if I see Bobby's Revenge 2.0 However, Knicks are not a great shooting team. We should have beat them in MSG. Maybe being at home helps us. I'll say I'm optimistic about that one too. So what, 2 of the 6? I think I'm expecting 2 and 4 out of the next 6 games, but I wouldn't be surprised if we go 3 and 3, 4 and 2, with the Pistons and Pacers games being on the fringe. I think the for sure losses are Lakers and Rockets. 2 toss-ups at the beginning. Hawks, I think we can win with no Trae Young out there. And then the Knicks, being at home, I hope we win. We should have beat them the first time, but anything is possible, and you can't expect this Bulls team to not break your heart this year, because it seems like they're going to each and every chance that they get. So that's going to wrap it up for this Bulls reaction. This is where you guys come in. Let me know what you guys think, Bulls fans, down below. What are your thoughts after this game? Where do you sit on the Jim Boylen debate? Is it too early to tell? Do you go ahead and make that decision now? Or are you thinking about it a little bit? Let me know what you guys think. Also, if you want to be featured in a Bulls reaction, if you got questions, make sure to hit me up on Twitter at Ricky Widmer. Going to feature some of the questions that I get all year in these videos. Want to thank you guys for watching. I didn't mention at the beginning, but make sure to check out patreon.com/mostvalpodcast. That is how you help support us. Make sure that, hey, I'll tell you this, I'll be frank. You give into Patreon, if enough patrons give, make this a full-time job. I can do this full-time, and then I don't have to worry about work, and I can get these videos out sooner than I would like to. So a little food for thought there, but if you don't have the dollar, just watching, liking, subscribing helps us out as well. Want to thank you guys for watching. Can't wait to see what the Bulls do tonight against the Pistons. And as always, have a good day, everybody.